There's a kind of prison that doesn't have walls, no alarms, no guards, just habits, just patterns, just the slow erosion of purpose hidden behind convenience. You call it comfort. You even convince yourself you've earned it. But deep down, you know you've stayed too long. Comfort feels good until it doesn't, until it becomes a routine that numbs your edge, until it wraps itself around your potential like a blanket over fire, warm but smothering, gentle but killing something sacred. You didn't notice it at first, the slow fade of urgency, the stillness that wasn't peace but paralysis. Every time you avoid pain, you feed the cage. Every time you choose distraction over discipline, the bars get stronger. You say you're tired, and maybe you are, but what's really exhausting is the weight of the man you know you could be and the silence you keep trying to outrun. There's nothing wrong with needing rest, but you weren't made to be idle. You weren't built to repeat yesterday forever. That ache in your gut, that low, restless hum that shows up late at night, that's not weakness. That's the alarm clock. That's your inner self pounding on the door of your comfort zone, begging you to answer. You don't need chaos to be motivated. You don't need to lose everything to wake up. Sometimes it just takes one quiet moment, one deep breath, one question asked in the dark. What am I afraid of building? Because behind every comfort zone is a fear you haven't faced yet. There is no enemy here but time. Time you can't get back. Time you've traded for convenience. But time isn't gone. Not yet. The cage was never locked. You just stopped trying the handle. You got used to small. You got used to stuck. And that, right there, is the turning point. You don't need to flip your life overnight. You don't need to burn everything down. But you do need to step. You need to stand up from the seat that's molded to your complacency and walk toward the discomfort that builds men. Because ease will make you soft, but struggle will make you solid. You are not meant to stay here. You were meant to climb. And the first step, the very first, starts with this question. Am I living or am I just staying comfortable? They gave you a costume and called it character. Told you to be tough, be silent, be strong. But not the kind of strength that heals, the kind that hides, the kind that grits its teeth while bleeding out quietly. And so you wore it, all of it, because no one ever told you that real masculinity has nothing to do with masks. They taught you that emotion makes you weak, that softness is a defect, that the only acceptable form of pain is silence. And you believed it, because the world rewards the man who looks like he has it all together, even when he's crumbling inside. You were lied to. Real strength doesn't come from burying what hurts. It comes from facing it, feeling it, learning how to carry it without letting it crush you. That's masculinity. The kind that doesn't flinch in the face of vulnerability, but welcomes it as a teacher. Being a man isn't about control. It's not about dominance. It's not about having the loudest voice or the heaviest fists. It's about restraint, discipline, responsibility. It's about owning your story, even the parts you were told to forget. You don't have to play their game anymore. You don't have to keep performing manhood like it's a role you're auditioning for. You are allowed to be powerful and still, brave and gentle. You are allowed to feel without apology and to heal without shame. Because real masculinity doesn't fear emotion, it integrates it. It doesn't run from failure, it transforms it. It doesn't chase approval, it builds legacy. Quietly, consistently, without needing to be seen. So take off the mask, set it down, and meet the man underneath, the one who never needed permission to be whole. You've built an entire life around escape, scrolling, hustling, drinking, laughing at jokes you don't feel, filling silence with noise, pain with distraction. You're not alone. Every man's been there. But deep down, you know none of it's working anymore. You keep moving because stillness feels dangerous. Because if you slow down, if you really stop, you might hear the questions you've been avoiding, the memories you haven't faced, the grief you've buried beneath your routines. But running doesn't heal it. It just delays the moment you finally have to face yourself. You weren't meant to escape your pain. You were meant to mine it. There's something inside it, a pattern, a root, a story you never finished telling yourself. And until you dig into it, it owns you. Not loudly, but quietly, subtly, sabotaging you from the inside out. Excavation is not glamorous. It's messy. It's lonely. It takes a kind of courage that no one sees or celebrates. But it's in that digging, that relentless, honest digging, where you uncover not just your wounds, but your wisdom. Every man who changes his life starts by stopping. He stops pretending, stops blaming, stops avoiding, and he picks up the shovel, not to bury more, but to unearth what's real, to find the boy who got silenced, the man who's been screaming without sound. The truth is, you already know where to dig. You've always known. The place you avoid most, that's where the gold is buried. Not the fake kind, not the Instagram version. The real stuff, self-respect, direction, peace that isn't dependent on distraction. Stop escaping. Start excavating. Because what you're looking for isn't out there. It's inside, beneath the rubble, beneath the silence, beneath the man the world told you to be, is the man you actually are.
Pain isn't the enemy. It's the fire. It burns away what's false, what doesn't belong, what was never built to last. And yeah, it hurts. But pain doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to define you, to shape the parts of you that comfort could never reach. You were taught to avoid it, to hide it, to power through it and call that strength. But true strength? It's forged. It's formed in the places you thought would break you. You don't come out of pain the same man, and that's the point. You come out cleaner, sharper, real. Think of a blade. It doesn't become sharp by staying whole. It becomes sharp by enduring pressure, friction, fire. You are no different. What you've been through wasn't meant to end you. It was meant to edge you into focus, into clarity, into the kind of man who no longer runs. There's a kind of wisdom only pain gives, the kind you can't learn in books or from mentors. You earn it through the nights you didn't quit, through the heartbreak you didn't numb, through the loss you didn't use as an excuse to become bitter. You stayed, you stood, and even if no one clapped, you evolved. Pain has one job, to expose what's untrue, and once it does, you get to choose. Harden or heal, hide or become. Most men run from that moment, but you're still here. That means something. You're not behind, you're being built. Every scar, every setback, every silent moment of agony has been your training ground. The pressure you feel isn't punishment, it's preparation. You're not falling apart, you're falling into place. Pain doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you real. And real men aren't afraid to be refined.
There's a strange kind of power, like exposing a truth. There's a strange kind of power in the things we avoid. The conversations you dodge, the memories you bury, the decisions you postpone. You think by avoiding them, you're in control. But the truth is, the more you avoid, the more they own you. You can feel it, that tension in your chest when her name comes up. The way you change the subject when someone gets too close. The silence after you say, "I'm fine," even though you're anything but. That's not peace, that's pressure, building, waiting. You don't escape what you avoid. You just trade it for a different kind of pain, the slow kind, the kind that shows up in your habits, your short temper, your lack of drive. You're not lazy, you're leaking energy, trying to hold up a version of yourself that's too scared to face the real work. The truth is, your fear doesn't shrink when you avoid it. It grows, quietly, strategically. It learns where you're soft, where you're ashamed, where you won't go, and it camps there until one day it doesn't whisper anymore. It rules. You don't need to fix everything overnight, but you do need to stop running. Turn toward it, sit with it, ask why it still has a grip on you. Because until you do, you're not in control. You're being steered by shadows. Freedom isn't found in escape, it's found in exposure. You can't change what you won't confront. And you can't lead anyone, not her, not them, not yourself, while still being led by the things you're afraid to face. You want peace? Go to war with your avoidance. Meet your pain on purpose. That's where your power has been waiting this whole time.
Silence has been misunderstood. They told you it meant weakness, that if you weren't speaking, shouting, proving, you were losing. But real power doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to explain. It doesn't even need to be seen. Real power is still. Anyone can make noise. Anyone can react. But silence takes strength. It takes maturity. It takes the kind of confidence that doesn't crumble under pressure or need applause to feel secure. The man who can stay calm in chaos, that's the man everyone follows, even if they don't say it out loud. There's a silence that comes from fear, and then there's the silence that comes from discipline. The silence that says, "I don't need to respond to prove I'm right." The silence that listens, that watches, that moves with precision, not panic. You don't always have to fight back. You don't always have to defend your name or your worth or your strength. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay silent long enough for the truth to expose itself. This kind of silence builds empires. It teaches you when to speak and when to step back, when to act and when to let someone else reveal who they are without you lifting a finger. This silence doesn't come from passivity. It comes from knowing, I've got nothing to prove to anyone but myself. If your silence is misunderstood, let it be. The people who truly matter will recognize the strength in it, and the ones who demand your noise, they were never really listening in the first place. Your voice is a tool, but your silence, that's your armor. That's your edge. That's what makes you unshakable.
You think freedom means doing what you want when you want. No rules, no limits. But real freedom doesn't come from chaos. It comes from control, from choosing your path, not being dragged by your impulses. And that path is built with discipline. Discipline isn't punishment, it's power. It's looking temptation in the face and saying, "You don't own me." It's showing up when no one is watching. It's doing the hard thing over and over, not because it's easy, but because it's right. You don't become a man by talking about your goals. You become one by honoring your word to yourself. And if your habits betray your vision, you're not committed, you're just comfortable. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you said you'd be. You don't become a man by talking about your goals. You become one by honoring your word to yourself. And if your habits betray your vision, you're not committed, you're just comfortable. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you said you'd be. Every time you hit snooze, every time you scroll instead of showing up, every time you let comfort win, you trade your future for a feeling. And that's not freedom. That's quiet self-betrayal. Discipline doesn't feel good in the moment, but it builds the kind of life that does. Discipline is what sharpens the edge, what turns noise into focus, what separates the man who reacts from the man who leads. You don't have to be the strongest or the loudest. You just have to be consistent, unshakable, relentless. There's a version of you that's already built, already waiting. He has peace, he has power, he has purpose. And the only way to reach him is through daily, deliberate discipline, even when no one's watching, especially then. You want freedom? Then master yourself, because the man who controls his mind controls his future. That's discipline. That's real freedom.
You've been waiting for someone to see you, to understand you, to fix what you never had the tools to repair. You thought if you just loved hard enough, gave enough, waited long enough, she would save you. But that's not her job. That was never her role. You made her the solution to your silence, the medicine for your anger, the answer to a question that wasn't hers to answer. And when she left or disappointed you, it didn't just hurt your heart, it shattered the illusion. Because now, it's just you. And that's exactly where the healing begins. She's not supposed to carry what your father never taught you. She's not supposed to fix the pain you never admitted. And love, real love, it doesn't rescue, it reflects. It shows you where you're whole and where you've gone missing. Don't confuse presence with purpose. Her attention isn't your validation. Her body isn't your reward. She can walk with you, but she cannot walk for you. And when you finally stop asking her to, you stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. You want to be a strong man? Then stop handing your power to someone else and calling it love. Heal your own wounds. Set your own standards. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You don't need her to save you. You need you to show up. The love you were waiting for wasn't hers. It was yours. Yours to give to the man in the mirror. Not once you've made it, but now. Even in the mess, especially in the rebuilding. She's not your savior. You are. And once you realize that, everything changes. You see the results, the swagger, the sharp words, the cool posture. But real confidence, it's not loud. It doesn't live in the spotlight. It's built in the shadows, when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when it's just you and the work. Confidence isn't something you get, it's something you earn. Repetition by repetition, discipline over distraction. It's built when you choose the hard way without needing credit for it. The early mornings, the quiet nights, the moments you show up anyway, even when it feels pointless. The man who brags, he's still unsure, still performing, still trying to convince you of something he doesn't believe about himself. But the man who trains in silence, who holds himself accountable without an audience, that's the man who walks into a room and doesn't need to dominate it. His presence speaks first. Confidence doesn't come from what you say. It comes from what you've survived, what you've faced, what you've rebuilt alone, with no one there to pull you up but you. The quiet hours you spend building character, that's where the voice in your head starts to change. It's in those private battles that you start to believe yourself. You trust your word. You stop looking for external permission. You stop apologizing for your space because you know how hard you've worked to own it. It's in those private battles that you start to believe yourself. You trust your word. You stop looking for external permission. You stop apologizing for your space because you know how hard you've worked to own it.
Confidence is when you don't need to prove anything because you've already proven it to yourself. In the silence, in the sweat, in the days when quitting whispered your name and you said no. Remember this, the world sees the results, but you feel the roots. And roots, they grow in private. So keep going. The man you're becoming is already watching.
You think you're holding it in, that your anger, your sadness, your past, they're all under control. But pain doesn't stay buried. It leaks. It shows up in your tone, in your silence, in the way you touch or pull away. You don't mean to hurt them, but unhealed pain always finds a way. You can love someone with everything you have and still harm them if you haven't done your own healing. Love isn't enough when you're carrying resentment, shame, or wounds you've never faced. Your trauma isn't your fault, but your healing, that's your responsibility. Most men weren't taught how to process, just how to push through, to numb, to distract. But what you avoid doesn't disappear, it festers. And before you know it, you're snapping at people who didn't deserve it, shutting down on those who only wanted to understand you. You say you're protecting people by staying silent, but the truth is, silence often becomes a weapon too. Withdrawal becomes rejection. Distance becomes confusion. You're not a bad man, but a wounded man left unhealed will turn anyone into collateral damage. There's nothing weak about seeking help, about sitting in the discomfort, about learning to say, I was wrong, or I need time. That's what strength looks like now. Not a closed-off heart, not a stone face, but a man who can feel without drowning and speak without blaming. Heal so you don't keep bleeding on people who didn't cut you. Heal so your future doesn't pay for your past. Heal because they deserve the best of you, and so do you. Being a good man isn't about being perfect. It's about being accountable. And that begins when you stop running and start repairing. One day, you'll meet him, the older version of you, the man who lived through every choice you're making right now. He'll look at you not with judgment, but with memory. And the only question that will matter is, did you become the man he needed you to be? Your future self doesn't care how many people liked you. He won't remember the likes, the comments, the games you won, or the women who came and went. He'll remember whether you kept your word, whether you showed up when it mattered, whether you lived with principle or just went with the flow. There's a version of you ahead, standing taller, clearer, lighter. He's not perfect, but he's powerful because he finally stopped running from discipline, from healing, from growth. He doesn't chase peace, he carries it. He doesn't need validation, he moves with conviction. Every decision you make now, what you eat, what you watch, what you tolerate, who you give your energy to, it's shaping him. He's either rising from your daily discipline or drowning in your daily avoidance. Being that man isn't about hustle or hype. It's about alignment. It's about living in a way today that your future self will thank you for, not resent. It's about becoming someone you can look in the eye years from now and not feel ashamed. You are not just living for the moment. You are setting the tone for the next chapter, for the family you'll protect, for the business you'll build, for the life you'll hand down. And that starts by choosing growth over comfort every single day. Be the man your future needs, because when that day comes and you look him in the mirror, he'll either nod with pride or ask why you didn't fight for him. You've spent your life measuring, stacking yourself against other men, their money, their bodies, their voices, their lives. But what if the one you were trying to become was already inside you? What if you've been looking outward for something that only answers to you? You are not here to meet someone else's expectations. You are here to define your own, to build your own code, to become the man you trust, not just when it's easy, but especially when no one is watching. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you different. The world doesn't need another man chasing approval. It needs men who are rooted, men who are precise with their power, men who can walk into a room and not need attention because their presence already speaks. Being the standard means you stop explaining yourself to people who aren't holding themselves to anything. It means you stop bending to fit rooms you've outgrown, and you start leading with what's real: integrity, clarity, purpose. You don't rise by accident. You rise by choosing who you are, again and again and again. When it's hard, when it's lonely, when it would be easier to fall back, you choose to be him. The man who does the work, the man who doesn't quit, the man who sets the tone. You are the standard, not because you're perfect, but because you're consistent, because you're accountable, because you decided to be. And from this moment forward, everything changes.